Jamaine, what's going on, brother? Thank you for joining us. Obviously, we were looking forward to having you in studio, but how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I was supposed to be down there, but some things came up, so I had to cancel that.
Yeah, man. So obviously, we're talking 135-pound division, and I don't know if you've been noticing what's been taking place, but ever since the WBC convention, they have ordered Shakur Stevenson to face Isaac Cruz. He turned it down. They went from the number two to the number four in William Cepeda. He turned it down. Cambosos turned it down. And obviously, if Shuchiro Yoshina does not turn it down, he gets the fight. But if he turns it down, you're next on the list at number 7. So we wanted to get you in here to just, see. I mean, a lot of us don't think you should take the Shakur fight off of the Vasil loss. Some of us want you to get a win.
Mm.
But how do you feel? Like, this is your career and maybe you don't feel like waiting for opportunities to come or pass you by.
Uh, I'm a fighter at heart, so any opportunity, any opposition, any challenge that comes my way, I'm always gonna want to take it. I'm always gonna want to fight and prove I'm the best. And like I said before, I feel like I'll be the only one to beat Shakur Stevenson. So the opportunity comes, why not take it now?
Now, don't you think that the cat is out the bag because it's like they know you can fight now? Some people, felt disrespected by the scorecards with your fight with Vasil. Some people thought you won. So it's not like you're going to surprise Shakur. He knows what to expect now.
Yeah, I guess. As you say, the cat's out the bag. For some people, they've been thinking that. For me, I always knew what I could do, my abilities and stuff. So now it's just more on a global level that people know who Jamaine Ortiz is and what I'm capable of doing. And I feel like there's still a lot more that people are still going to be able to see in Jamaine Ortiz to come.
So again, I'm one of those guys that prefer you to get a win. Maybe Nakatilia or Nakatani, even Richard Comey. I suggested. Someone just said you versus Cambosos. They called in. That's a good fight. Both coming off losses. Um, but you're saying that's not what you want. If the Shakur fight's on the table, you would prefer that.
I would take it. I'm trying to get whatever that will line me up for a world title because my end goal is to be world champion. And, on a business perspective, it would look probably better to just, like what you said, get a win with any of those other guys. I think Cambosos would be a great fight. Uh, but at the end of the day, it's always a kind of a team decision. But if I want to fight, I'm going to fight. And I don't know, it's just something I'm a dog. So sometimes like somebody got to hold me back maybe. But when it comes to the table, like I'm just going to want to fight.
Do you think if the fight with Shakur was offered, it's best to jump on it now because you're more naturally a 135-pounder and he would be his first fight at this weight, not necessarily 100% acclimated? He just missed weight below. Or do you think none of that matters? He's a professional. He's been doing this all his life. That 5 pounds isn't going to be a big difference for him.
I can't really say from his part because I don't know how his camp looks. I don't know who's he sparring. He's probably sparring bigger guys, and maybe he could take that the weight. Smaller gloves is different, obviously, but you know, Shakur is very good. He's very good defensively, so I don't think that's his concern much because if he's defensively tight, he probably doesn't have to worry about big punches coming in. But you never know. It only takes one shot to slide in and switch up the whole game plan.
Is there anyone you would use specifically for sparring, or you would just let your team do what I normally do? You didn't bring no one in special for Lomachenko, so you wouldn't bring in a special sparring partner for Shakur, or did you?
Uh, I'll bring somebody to imitate every single time. I do have a line up, bringing people who's going to imitate that style as much as they can. If it's more of an aggressive style, more of a boxer style, whatever it is, we're gonna try to imitate that as much as possible. But we're not gonna never find somebody who's gonna be exactly like that other fighter. But we try to get the closest look we can.
Who do you think off your top of your head, or again, would you let your trainer deal with that? Like, who do you think would be the best guy you could call in for Southpaw sparring to emulate Shakur?
That would be hard. I can't really think off the top of the head. I haven't thought that far.
I mean, yeah, damn. Fuck, I'm trying to think. Southpaw at that.
I mean, Boo Boo Andrade, I know you said you've worked with him. He is on your side of the town, and he's a southpaw. He's not Shakur, but he's a southpaw. And he's big, so,
That might
you
work.
know, that's the power, you know.
That might work.
Jamaine,
So on the other hand, I'm sorry, I've been cutting him off all day. My bad, Danny. This is the last one. Do you think that Shakur would actually offer you the fight? Because, like, obviously there's other people there. And he can always skip you. He can always send a petition to WBC and say, let me fight Edwin De Los Santos for the eliminator, you know, and say, you know, Jamaine is coming off a loss or something like that. I don't know. But do you think he would want to face you?
I think so. You know, if Shakur is a dog like you say he is, which I believe him to be, then he's gonna want to fight the best. And if I'm next in line, then why wouldn't he want to fight me?
Jamaine, I'm sure you saw his fight with Jamel Herring and your preparation for your fight with Jamel Herring. What were you able to you know, pick apart from that fight? What do you remember from, you know, watching his fight with Jamel, and where do you think you could capitalize?
Talking specifically about capitalizing on Shakur.
Correct.
Oh man. Looking back at it, I wasn't really looking at what I could capitalize on Shakur when I was watching that fight. And when I did rewatch the fight, it was for when I was facing Jamel. So I was really looking at how I could capitalize on Jamel, not on Shakur. So I'd have to watch it back and really, really think and see what we can do.
Did you see anything in that fight that once you fought Herring, you felt like, oh, I did this better than Shakur? Or I capitalized on an opening better?
I gotta look back. I remember some people saying things that it was a better like output than Shakur. There was something along those lines, but I couldn't recall it too much. But I'm pretty sure if I look back, now that you say that, right after this, I'm gonna watch the fight. I'm gonna rewatch the fight. And I'm gonna be like, all right, and point shit out because you guys are mentioning it now. So I'm definitely gonna do that right after this.
Jermaine, I gotta ask, how many times have you seen your fight with Vasil, if any?
Probably like 4 times. 4 times.
Doesn't I mean, I know this might come left field because you a man and you're a fighter, but did you cry?
No.
Nah, it don't make you emotional at all.
It made me more ambitious and just more like really wanting to step on people's throats a little bit more aggressive in that manner. Did I cry? No. It was just, you know, a shrug of the shoulders, and I've seen it happen before. And
biggest
what can I
takeaway?
do?
What was your biggest takeaway each time you saw the fight? Because I'm sure you looking back, you know,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
to you know, see where
There was a lot of
where
things.
things could improve.
There was a lot of things. In every single fight, I can improve. And every time I watch me fight, I can see how I can improve, how I can move better, everything. And with this fight was really more finishing. I really got to understand on finishing and win those championship rounds and how much they really do matter. And it's not just about winning the majority of the rounds, but the types when the rounds matter, you know, like the beginnings of the rounds and the ending of the rounds, the championship rounds, and knowing when to take time off and knowing when to capitalize on those rounds to really get, you know, the judges' eyes on you dominating.
Now,
Everybody's flipping in the chat. Have you noticed? Because I said, did you cry? Meanwhile, we're talking about Shakur, who cried when he didn't win his gold medal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
bro,
it's just an
crying is a
emotion.
natural
Yeah.
thing.
Especially when you feel like you got the win. So I'm just basing my question off you expecting to get a win and then being disappointed. So I hope you didn't take it the wrong way when I
Yeah,
asked you if you cried or not.
no. To be honest, I thought I was gonna cry when I won, just
Mm,
from
joy.
tears of joy, because everything that I knew what was gonna happen, I knew how I felt inside preparing for this fight. Like I was so confident, I knew I was gonna win, and I manifested everything. So there was times I wanted to cry before the fight. I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna wait till after I win. I'm gonna cry because it's just tears of joy. But that didn't end up happening.
Champ, it's funny. Obviously, with us, we do this show daily, multiple times a day, so we see what the fans are saying. A lot of people felt that you ain't been under the bright lights. You know that you haven't been on that stage, that Jamel Herring could not prepare you for the Lomachenko stage. And boy, were they wrong, right? You definitely showed up on the night. Was there a specific round or a specific moment in the fight that stood out to you the most, where you're like, I'm really here, I'm really on the big stage?
Uh, I can't say a specific round because it's all in the mind. Like I really prepare my mind, and I feel like my mind is my biggest asset and my biggest tool on why I could dominate and why I could win and why I'm so, just strong and ferocious in whatever I do, because I really prepare myself mentally before anything that I'm already a winner. This is nothing new to me. Like, and people have been saying that to me since the beginning of time. I remember just my first time even fighting on TV when I opened up the pay-per-view for Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, and people be like, "Oh, that's gonna be different. You're on TV now, or whatever, etc." And right after that, and after that, people say the same thing, but it's never affected me. It's always just another day in the gym. That's how it felt.
Dope, dope. I got a couple of questions here from the people, champ. Cisco Promotions says, looking back at your fight with Loma, was the battle as mentally exhausting as the hype, or was it what you expected it to be? I ask because the media consistently pushes how much you have to think when fighting Loma, as if it's out of this world compared to other fighters.
To be honest, I was surprised how much I didn't have to really use my mind compared to like sparring. Like when I was sparring him, I felt like I had to I was getting more mentally exhausted a little bit at times. But during the fight, I was really surprised on how mentally clear I was and mentally settled and mentally not, everywhere. And like, I got to think, I really just took it with calm because I knew how it was going to play out.
How'd you find that calmness? Was that just natural or something you worked on?
I'm just like, I'm telling you, when I talk, like some people say they believe in themselves and some people talk the talk and say like, no, I'm 100% confident I'm going to win. No, like that thing is like in my blood that I already know I won. So there's no worry. Like, I don't even know how to explain it without over exaggerating, but it is going to over exaggerate on the confidence that I do have in myself. And that's why I am so calm every single time I step in the ring. Like sometimes I question myself on why I don't get nervous or why I don't get no butterflies or not even something, like a little stomach turning at any moment throughout preparation. And it's just because that ultimate confidence I have in myself. And sometimes I question, it's like, wow, I should be
Wait,
feeling
you don't
something.
get
Like this is
butterflies.
something new for me. I don't get nothing. And I question myself why I don't sometimes, because it's like something that should happen. Something's
Oh
natural that
yeah.
at some point in time you should get something, even the best of the best, even Mike Tyson. And sometimes I question myself, like, why can't I get this? Because sometimes I want to feel that feeling and I just can't.
So
And
not
that's
even at
just
the
the
face
calmness.
off?
Nothing, bro.
Wow.
And it's weird because I sometimes I want to feel that feeling because it's might give you a different type of energy, but it's nothing. It's nothing.
And what about in any of your
Hold
fights?
on, champ. I gotta butt in because I vividly remember there were some people, and there's always those, but there were some people that were critical of you for not taking your glasses off at the weigh-in, saying that the entire week you kept your glasses on, that you chose to not look Loma in his eyes. Um, what do you say to that? Because some people think that was a mental thing. Was that you playing a mental thing, or why was that?
Nah, you know, when I'm cutting weight, my eyes are all black eye. Like I look like a raccoon sometimes. So I just don't want to show that. I want to stay looking pretty. So I try to cover the black eye. You know, you know, dark circles. And then he looked at me like if it was something weird. I'm like, you know, the face off. Like I took him off. Like, no, it ain't no mental thing. It ain't because I don't want to look at you in your eye. Like I'm gonna stare down at you if that's what you want, and I'm gonna look through them eyes.
Mm.
I got Lids Low in Decatur, Georgia. He says, what direction do you go from here? Any opportunities came about since the Loma fight?
Not really. Not. I haven't got no calls for no fights.
Mm.
At least nobody that told me anything.
All right. What about Canna says, great fight, no question, just respect. There you go.
Champ, so
And that's Nebraska.
no time frame. Like, hey, we plan to get you out like Q2 and nothing like that.
I'm thinking at least I would like to get back in the ring like March, April, around there.
Okay.
So that's the time I'm kind of looking at. I don't know. I haven't really gotten nothing,
Yo,
nothing
let me
back.
ask you this.
That's what I'm looking at.
Now that you were top ranked, would you like to get on like a Xander, Belanga, Jamaine Ortiz, Madison Square Garden card, or you know you want to do your own thing?
Man, I'm willing to do anything to create my publicity and get it up there. And because we all know this is a business at the end of the day, and it's about entertainment, and it's about sales, and it's about viewership. So anything that could skyrocket that up and bring it up, I'm all for it. And I just feel like, you know, besides the outside of the business stuff or the promotions, let that do its work. But my job is to entertain inside the ring. And I feel like that'll create my own fans and the own respect that I deserve. And I feel like it's done that itself by the way I fight and the way I try to entertain the people with my style. The rest of the outside promotion is just, you know, work that I got to do and everybody in the team got to pitch in and do as well.
Jamaine, I want to ask, had you won October 29th, Bob calls you, Jamaine, I need you to be ready by March 18th for Devin Haney.
That's what he wanted, man.
Would you?
That would have been
Would
crazy.
you have accepted the fight before Ramadan?
Of course. I would have. You know why? Because I practice Islam as well. So when it comes to Ramadan, if I could get a chance to fight right before and fast throughout that time, that would be perfect for me. So that wouldn't.
What was your experience like then? Because you fought Jamel post Ramadan, meaning that you held camp during Ramadan. What was that experience like for you?
It was different. Like I tried to fast for a couple weeks, but like having that big fight, you know, I really just didn't fast throughout that time. Like I try to practice as best as I can, but I gotta, you know,
You
there's
needed
not
the
times where
nutrition.
I'm in position. Yeah, there's not times where I'm in position where be like, nah, like I'm not in a world championship position where I'm Devin Haney. I could be like, well, I gotta fast during Ramadan. I'm gonna fight beforehand or after, and not in between.
I mean,
obviously, I'm not in that position to do that.
Is he in position? It seems like Top Rank is trying to fucking push it to May.
I don't know. I'm not really keeping up with too much of the details.
Do you see a reason?
But,
Do you see a reason that Lomachenko couldn't be ready? Like as a fighter, just as a fighter, like you yourself said, you could be ready. Could you see yourself as a fighter? You fought October 29th. Could you be ready by mid-March in that fight?
yeah, like right now, I'm telling you, I'm preparing for March, and I don't even got nothing lined up. But you know, physically, I'm trying to get myself ready. So if that call does come in March, I am ready. And I feel like Lomachenko should take the fight before that time because he's already older. So why wouldn't he want to just get back in there as soon as possible? They was trying to complain about ring rust, 10 months and that, when 10 months to me in boxing isn't that much of a long time. If it was a year and a half, then you could talk about that. But 10 months is not that far off. Most people fight every 6, 7 months when they're fighting 12-round fights anyways.
That's fair. That's damn near typical these days. My last thing to you, you said obviously that you weren't in the Devin Haney position to choose to fight before or after. You know, that seems to be in the air. If you were in Devin's shoes right now, since you do practice Islam, would you turn the fight down then if they do try to push it to May as the undisputed world champion?
Yeah, because if you're the champ, turn it down and fight in May. But he wants to. I know he's probably having a hard time at 135, and he's talking about probably moving up. So he wants to do it before. Keep that, make the weight sooner than later. If I was in his position, I have all the belts. I'm undisputed. I want to serve my God the best I can, and as an influencer and as a role model to others, put God first and do what you got to do.
For sure.
But I'm on him with that one.
Well said, champ.
For sure.
I
Thank you
got
for
New
your
York
thoughts.
Bullet that says, "What's good, champ? You did well in the Lomachenko fight. Much respect with the Puerto Rican flag. If given a chance for a rematch, what would you do differently?"
I'll knock him out.
How could you ensure the knockout? Don't everybody want to get the knockout? Because that's the only way you make sure you don't lose.
Yeah, but no, this time it's because I knew, crazy to say, I really had a dream I was gonna knock him out, under the 5th round. And when I rewatched it back, I think in the 2nd round, I caught him with a check hook, and I know he was hurt. Not at the time when I watched it, I knew he was a little hurt because the way he fell forward, pushed off of me, and started running in a circle. He doesn't do that the way he fights. He's never off balance. He has good at his stance. He knows how to pull back and run away. But the way he did, he fell forward. It was in the 2nd round, a check hook. And if I was to catch that while I caught him with that and jumped on him, dream would have came true. But like I said, I was super confident. I feel like Lomachenko's a little bit too small for that weight. It's tough to say because he's did beat great fighters at 135. He's been there for a good amount of fights already. But maybe somebody like me, like Devin, who's bigger, I don't know. But I know if I also have a rematch, I'll knock him out. I'll put that for sure.
Bougie from Broward, the 954 said, "What's good, champ? Thanks for pulling up on the show today. First off, I became a fan when you fought Jamel Herring. I knew you were special the way you dominated. Then I was pissed when they said you were tune-up against Loma. I knew you was going to beat him, and you did, but Top Rank robbed you. And this was your first 12-round fight and still dominated. Is Loma a hype job?" So I guess that's your question. Is Loma a hype job?
I don't think Loma's a hype job. Obviously, we know promotions do a lot of things, but to me, Lomachenko is still one of the greatest to ever do it. The way he dominates, the way he performs inside the ring, the way he's able to knock people out with not just one knockout power, but just his flurry of punches. I don't think Lomachenko is a hype job. He is a great fighter. It just takes the right person to expose him and knowing what to do. It's another smart fighter in there with him.
Brandon in Houston says, "After hearing that wide scorecard, did that somehow change your approach moving forward? When I say change, I mean when facing a favorite, do you think you need to be more aggressive in the sense, go for the knockout or knock down, the KO, instead of leaving it in the hands of the judges?"
I don't want to say that because I learned from my experience with the Adorno fight where I was the underdog. I didn't have no deal with Top Rank, and I knew I was the B side, and I kind of came with that overly aggressive style and really to try to dominate and dominate and dominate. And even though I felt like I dominated every round, even the round that I got dropped, it left me to a mistake that, one round, the 2nd round, I was off balance and I slipped. But that's another mistake of just knowing where my feet are at and not being off balance. But even at that point, it was a draw when out of the 8 rounds and 2 10-8 rounds, and every other round I dominated, I would still be up by 1 point if you calculate it. So after that, I seen that, and I just didn't want to continue making the same mistake. So I didn't go with that mindset of, no, I'm a B-side, I'm a dominant, because the last time I tried to do that, I still didn't win, even though I dominated and ended up making some mistakes. So
So Tell the Truth says, first of all, I think you are a great fighter. I want to know how you feel about people saying that you was just the sparring partner trying to downplay your performance against Loma. Also, Shakur is not what you want. If so, demand it.
All right. What was the first part of that question?
Well, he said, first of all, I think you're a great fighter. And how do you feel about people saying you was just the sparring partner trying to downplay your performance against Loma?
To be honest, right before the fight and throughout the whole process of the fight, I'm not listening to videos, vlogs, journalists, whatever. I don't do that because I know they're not going to say nothing good about me. So I'm not going to allow not 1 ounce of any negative energy about me to enter my mind or my unconscious mind. And that's where comes the other side of the conference, because I don't let that drive me. So after the fight, my partner, I'm just gonna prove him. I know people are always gonna doubt me, and I always felt that from that position, that people are always gonna look down on me. So my job is like, whatever it is, what it is. Those are the cards I'm dealt with in life. This is the position I'm in. I just gotta play my cards and prove the people wrong. So I'm not gonna be mad at people's opinion. Everybody got their own opinion, but my job is to show them different.
For sure, man. I think those are all our questions. Jamaine, please let everybody know where they can find you, man. We just want to thank you for jumping on last minute. I know that the travel plans changed, and we do appreciate you still being able to come on and connect with us.
Champ, man, keep living life, man. Keep living life. Fuck the haters. Keep living life. Throw them back on the screen, guys. I saw you at the Garden. You out here like modeling and shit. Not really, but for real modeling. So keep living life. Keep being happy, keep smiling, and keep working, champ.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, everybody can follow me on Instagram, Jamaine Ortiz, Twitter, Jamaine Ortiz R. Just find me at Jamaine Ortiz, and I thank y'all, the Boxing Voice. Y'all the #1 podcast out here, so I really appreciate y'all for having me on here.
Before you go, I got to get your thoughts, man. Obviously, your brethren, Michelle Rivera, is fighting. What do you think about that fight with Frank Martin? And, obviously I'm Dominican, so I'm pulling for Michelle. So I don't know, are you going to do the same? Because I'm actually looking for someone to reassure me that my $50 bet was the right bet, because I put 50 on him, man. I think he got the better resume. You know, he's been in earlier with better opposition. Like, he beat Ladarius Miller, 2-3 years ago. So I don't know. I think he could box, man. What's your thoughts?
I think Michelle's a great boxer, and I'm pulling for Michelle. I think he's gonna win, and staying on my side with my Dominican brother.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ortiz, man. We look forward to getting you back on, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you.
Happy holidays,
All
champ.
right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Peace. What up, YouTube family? Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us get to that 1 million subscribers. We're on the road to 1 million. And obviously, we have other great content on our Patreon channel. So since this video is over, head on over to our Patreon and check out all the exclusive content, or right here on our YouTube members.